the voice of heroes and the voice for heroes. Thank you for joining Hometown Heroes this morning. This is Rick Irving with my co-host Mary Staffeld, and we're glad you're joining us today. Mary, how are you today?
I'm great, Rick. Good to see you as
Well,
always.
this is a milestone because we've been doing this just a little over 2 years, and today is our 100th episode. So, welcome to the 100th episode. And we have a great guest today. Mary, tell us about our guest.
Tracie Hunter is our guest today, and we met Tracie. Gosh, it's got to be 6 years ago, maybe. It's
Yeah,
it's
just
been
about then.
it's been quite some time ago that by chance, we all happened to be at the same place, and I believe it was one of our board members, Roy Davis, who first encountered Tracie and found out that she did some filmmaking and could possibly take care of something we were in deep need of, and that was to get a new roll call video. And so that's how we first connected. And of course, she's been instrumental in working with us and getting our World War II veterans to many, many events, and connecting them with other organizations. Tracie is the director and founder of Beyond the Call. And she's going to tell you more about Beyond the Call, but I have to tell you, and Rick and I have certainly talked about it before. It is a fabulous organization. It does so much for our veterans, and Tracie is just on a mission to never let these guys' stories die. And I think that is what we all are here for, is to make sure the stories keep being told. So Tracie, we are thrilled you're here, especially Tracie is coming to us from Hawaii, so it is much earlier there. We've got Tracie out of bed really early today. So Tracie, tell the audience a little about you and who you are, and what you do.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mary. It is such a pleasure to be on this with you guys. I've been watching this for quite a long time, and just an honor, and especially Roll Call is one of our biggest supporters and partners, and yeah, we just couldn't be more grateful for you guys. So yeah, Beyond the Call, it is an organization that serves all veterans, but our focus is World War II veterans right now. And I started it back in 2018. So my background, I'm a filmmaker. That's my bread and butter by trade. So I do documentary films, and had a couple other filmmakers that we came together, and we just really wanted a way to give back to the military community. We had done one other documentary, The Last Signal, with 2 World War II veterans. And as you guys know, just such a fun generation to spend time with. And so I started Beyond the Call in 2018, and our mission is to document the firsthand accounts of our World War II veterans. And so we travel around, we film and interview them, and then we take those interviews and turn them into short documentaries. And then the full versions, we give to different people for archival purposes. And these films are free to the public. They are used in schools and museums as educational resources. And so it's really important for us to document those stories, the personal accounts, so that we don't forget. It's a way to honor them, for their families to have those memories. And then another great thing that we've been able to do in the last handful of years with the support of people like Roll Call and other partners is to take these veterans back to their battlefields. So we have gone back to Normandy in partnership with Liberty Jump Team. We were able to accompany Al Chatwin this last year to Normandy with American Airlines. And then this will be our 3rd year coming up in December that we're able to bring veterans back to Pearl Harbor for a week of commemorations. And Mary was actually able to join us 2 years ago. She brought Dawn Graves out. Yes, this is our group from that week. So this was a really neat week. We spent a week in Pearl Harbor, and the veterans that we had that year were Dawn Graves, Carl Flinner, and then Jack Holder. And Carl and Dawn, that was their first trip back to Pearl Harbor since they had stopped through there during the war, which was amazing, just to see them see these places again for the first time. And I think that was 81 years for that year. So just a really cool experience. And to do it together with friends, that specific trip was sponsored by our wonderful partner, Black Rifle Coffee Company. So some of their guys came out. They did a whole week of filming with the guys to tell their story. And yeah, I mean, Mary, you can attest to this. We had a great time that week.
It was amazing. And to your point, Tracie, and unless somebody is with a veteran when they go back to the battlefield, to see them look at the strafe marks and to see, the Arizona, and to be there and look at the names, there was just so much emotion to that. And then the way that the Black Rifle guys interacted with them, it was just amazing. Everyone that you arranged for them to work with while we were there, everywhere that they went, it was such a blessing, and they felt the love, and they felt treasured, and they felt special. And so it's really something.
And on your website, Tracie, there is a great video of that trip to Hawaii with Don Graves. So just go to the website and you can find that there. Also, another video of the trip to Normandy. So some great videos. But plus, you're an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker, and that's a big deal. I mean,
thank you. And what makes me happiest about that is that it was for the Emmy is for a story about World War II veterans, and so we know that those stories mean a lot, but to have that on a larger platform, just get that recognition, was really cool. And yeah, here's the night at the award ceremony, and my date was our movie star, Mr. John Heimsoth. So he came with me, and we just had a ball. His 2 granddaughters got to come, and he had the time of his life. And he said to me that night, he said, I can finally close this chapter of my life, which for us, was huge. These stories, we always want them to, never re-traumatize anyone. Those are hard things that people are talking about. And so to know that some healing happens from us, offering this platform for these veterans to share their stories on, it's a really cool thing. And these guys do become just like adopted grandfathers, to me and to our team and everything. So that was a cool night. And what I loved about it was the only standing ovation that night was for our World War II veteran. And I thought that was really cool. So and he passed just a couple months after that, but he really said that he got to do everything in life, and that part of the war for him, he got some closure on, and that's all we can hope, for these stories that we're telling.
Rick, you're muted.
The important part of your work is to get those stories before those veterans pass on. So, because we're losing them at a very high rate per day now, and there's not but a couple 100,000 left, I don't think. So.
Yeah. It's from the 26th of July to the 5th of August. We lost 2. Tippy Foster, one of our remaining female vets, and Jack Raskoff. So to Rick's point, we had, I think, 35 on the roster, and now we're down to 33. And, when I got started with roll call in 2017, we were close to 100. So, it's so hard. It's really hard. And I know Rick and I have talked about a lot of times we look at the pictures, all the bazillion pictures Rick has taken. They're fabulous pictures, but you look at those and you see the faces, and you know that they're not here anymore. But we're blessed to be able to share with them and to hear stories.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary, and talk about that picture.
Man, I'll tell you, that group of guys, what an amazing group of veterans. And out of that whole entire group, the only one that's still with us is Don Graves. And, these guys could tell you stories that you couldn't believe that anybody actually lived through. It's just shocking. but man, my heart breaks when I see it, but I'm so blessed because I had the benefit of being able to hear from them those stories. And that's what you're capturing. So
And
well,
Tracie got the opportunity to interview Carmen Giese before he passed too. And you've interviewed Don Graves. How about Fisk Canley? Did you ever interview Fisk?
No, I didn't get the chance to meet him, and I've heard so many wonderful things about him.
Yeah, BJ Shepard is in there. Dwayne Jones, I don't think she got to. I think that once COVID hit and it locked these guys down, it was a short time after that we started to lose a few more of those. And not to COVID. They didn't die from COVID. I think they more died from not being able to be out and around people, because this group was always going, right, Rick? They were.
That was right. You take somebody like Dwayne Jones. He's the second one from the right, and he was a pilot in World War II. Mm-hmm. And then he went to work for Bell Helicopter, became a vice president of Bell, and he was kind of the father of the Jet Ranger. So, just a marvelous career that he had. And, each one of them had a story. And this was 4 years ago at a function called War Stories. So that night we did get to hear some stories from those guys.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I'm a huge fan of Roll Call, but that's one of the beautiful things about Roll Call is you guys provide a place for all these veterans to come together and have a community. And that's where a lot of the stories, they start opening up, is when they have their guys and, fellow comrades together. And so you guys do a great job for that. And we've been able, with the support of Roll Call, to interview Carmen, to interview Don Graves. We'll be doing an interview with Al Chatwin here soon we've got a trip for him coming up to Guam, and Roll Call has been such a huge support in that. So he'll be going back to Guam for the first time since he served there during the war. These partnerships and friendships between organizations are really important to us.
Yeah, we really, as a group, we can't get anything done alone. We really have to depend on one another, because that's where we find our strength in taking care of these guys. Because, the reality is, as we know, because we all three have dealt with a lot of the World War II guys, especially these guys grew up during the Depression. Mm-hmm. And most of them did not come from families that had money, and then you turn around and they get out of the military, and we all know that until probably the mid 80s, the late 80s, the military, my first 7.5 years in the military, I guarantee you I didn't make very much money. Tell people my first full year in the Air Force in 1979, I made $2,200, and they look at me and go, a month? And I said, no, that was for the whole year. And so people don't understand that, these guys didn't live in a lap of luxury, have a ton of money. And most of them were never qualified or even pursued VA disability ratings, even if they should have gotten them. So you're looking at folks that don't necessarily have a lot of money in the bank. So we like to think that, but veterans are so well taken care of. Well, unless you retired, you're not even guaranteed VA medical care. So the reality is that what you're doing and what we try to help with, we don't necessarily have financial backing in terms of cash, but we have a lot of folks that we can reach out to, and we have airline miles and other ways that we can help. But what we all do collectively to help these guys get to go on these trips and give them that closure that you're talking about is so important. It's so important. Not one of us as a group can get it done alone. We all work together. And you mentioned Liberty Jump Team, and I hope you'll mention them again too in terms of how you work with them, because that relationship is really special too.
Yeah. And that's another, local Texas organization, Liberty Jump Team. So I got introduced to them from one of my World War II veterans, Dan McBride. He was in the 101st Airborne Division and was a paratrooper. And he, talked me into jumping out of a plane, which I at first told him he was crazy. I was never going to do it. And then he's like, well, we'll go together. So he came up to Corsicana, Texas for the week, and man, they rolled out the red carpet for him. He's got his picture in the hangar down there, and they just, it is a jump team, but their primary goal is to honor the veterans, and they do a really wonderful job at that. And so, I did 5 jumps that week and got my civilian jump wings from Liberty Jump Team, and they have a veterans fair side that I participate in, and they take guys back to Normandy, back to Market Garden, the Battle of the Bulge commemorations, and just really support the vets. And so anytime, they have an event going on, I try to take some of the guys out. And Carl Flinner actually was one of the ones I was thinking about. So we met Carl. He was a paratrooper in World War II in the Pacific. We met him through roll call. I think one of your volunteers, Lorna, I think just chased him down. She saw him out somewhere and met him. So,
that wouldn't surprise us.
And we had a spot open up for Pearl Harbor, and so just all got together and connected. But Carl was able to go down to Liberty Jump Team, and they took him up in the C-47, and he just loved it. I mean, he couldn't get enough of that. I think that was his first time back, in a C-47 aircraft since the war, and just really lit up the last, handful of years of his life. And going back to Pearl Harbor, like I will never forget, Mary, when we had him in the parade. Carl's a little bit quiet. He's quick, and he was, just hilarious, his banter back and forth with Don Graves. But, he wasn't, as just outgoing, maybe a Don character. And when we had him in the parade, he just lit up and was waving at everybody, big smile on his face, and had the time of his life. And, that is everything for us to see those moments.
That time with him, I think not only was important for him, but it was important for his son, because I don't know that his son really understood the meaning of what he did. And I saw that relationship. I just saw something in that when they were there together, and he was pushing his dad down that parade route. Because of course, that would have been awful hard for either one of them to walk. So we always make sure that they're in a wheelchair being pushed, because we don't want them to try to walk like that. But Carl had some of the best stories that, when we were even just flying in, and he saw the palm trees, and he started telling us a story about he would watch the tree, and if the tree would move kind of funny, he'd be like, that ain't right. Tree should have moved like that. And he'd just shoot. And he said, and then a jack would fall out of the tree. And he was just so funny in how he told the story, but he was opening up and telling stories and sharing them with a lot of humor. But he saw a lot. And I think that was really a special moment to watch that happen. And he could hold his own with Don,
Yes.
he was taking no prisoners, let me tell you.
Those two were fun that trip.
They were pretty fun.
Yeah. Mary, that you made a point too that I think, I wanted to touch on about the families realizing, what this service means. And Rick and I were talking a bit before we started, but I grew up in a military family. My dad was in the military since he was 18, and grew up traveling, moving around on bases. I think I went to like 9 schools before I graduated high school. Just the typical like military child life. But one of the things that I love about being able to do this work with Beyond the Call, and also what you guys do with Roll Call, is including the families in it. Even me growing up in that environment, like it's taken me time to step back and look at my father's service and my grandfather's service. And I've always appreciated, but just that deeper understanding of really what that means. And when we can include the families into these trips, it's really important for us. roll call providing a place for families to come, and just when you're watching your dad or mom or relative get honored in that way, it gives you a deeper appreciation for that. And I think it's really important to include the families on this stuff.
And so many times the families never heard any stories. Mary and I had a guest. He was in Burma during World War II, and he was with the real cavalry. I mean, they were used mules, and we had two of his family members that came with him whenever we were doing the podcast down at Fort Worth Memories Museum, and they were just sitting on the edge of their chair because they never had heard any stories at all. And that's one thing where you doing the stories can give those stories to the families so they have an idea about what their relatives did.
Yeah. There's one story that always sticks out to me in all of the interviews that we've done for Beyond the Call, and his name was Sandlin Gillen. I found him, and I feel like roll call does this too. We'll see like a World War II hat or, veteran hat in the grocery store or airplane or something, and we'll just run down and, next thing they know, they're showing up at these events. But I tracked him down. My grandfather was in World War II. He was in the 4th Infantry Division and was wounded in action, and then became a prisoner of war and had a really difficult time in the prison camp. It was Stalag 9B in Germany. And my grandfather passed away many, many years ago. But Sandlin happened to be in the same prison camp as my grandfather. And we had only heard a handful of stories. It was not a part of his life that he wanted to talk about. And so I reached out to Sandlin, and he was really hesitant. He's like, well, I don't know, like, you can just read about it, just Google this or that and stuff. And I was like, well, if you're okay, like, I'd really love to come meet you. He was in Waterloo, Iowa, and he finally agreed. So me and Elizabeth, she's one of our other filmmakers and board members for Beyond the Call, we drove up there, and just the sweetest guy in the world, just precious man, and just so tenderhearted. And really was just a kid like many of these guys going into the war. And we sat down and we did his interview and, got to meet his family that day, things like that, and stayed in touch till the day he died. And he was so sweet. He would always send us boxes of cookies every single month, ever since we had met him. But when he passed away, I went to his funeral, and we had put the documentary together at that time and given it to him and his family. So they had that. And his son came up to me and said, my dad never talked about this until this time period. And in the last year, since he had a place to speak about his experience, our family has come so much closer together because we finally understand what our dad went through, and we just never knew. And, that was just so overwhelming to me to know that, of course, like, it's so important to have these stories preserved, but to provide healing for both Sandlin and to bring his family closer and give them understanding of what he had gone through was just so important to us. And so, I don't know, every thing that happens after these interviews are done and how the families, react and interact. But I do hope that there's always some element of healing and bringing the families closer together through this work.
I've got a question, Tracie. On the stories that you've captured, is there a place where people can go see those stories?
Yes, they are all on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you share them with the family, and that's very important, what you said, because the families, so many times, they don't know what their relatives went through. And we see that a lot with the Vietnam veterans. Mm-hmm. They went through so much, and a lot of them don't talk at all about it. Most of them, I don't know if I can say most of them, but a lot of them suffer from post-traumatic syndrome. And so their families wonder why. My dad was like that. World War II Marine, spent 2.5 years in the South Pacific. And we just thought he was a grumpy old guy, but he had that all that trauma that he had seen and experienced. And so it's good whenever the families do realize that, hey, their loved one went through a lot, and that may be the cause of some of the issues they have. So
yeah, absolutely.
so now you are in Hawaii, and that's kind of your base. So there's probably some of those World War II guys that come over there during the year that you can get hooked up with, and be maybe do interviews over there. So if there's people watching, it'd be great if they're going to be in Hawaii. Just go to Beyond the Call and say, hey, we're going to bring my dad over there. Can you meet him and maybe talk to him and do an interview?
Yeah, absolutely. We are always, looking for more veterans to interview. And a thing that is very important for us is once we finish the interviews and put the cameras down, that veteran stays in our life. So we maintain those relationships with the families and the veterans. We, try to get them connected to organizations like Roll Call and just keep them in the family, so they know that it's not just their story. We're looking to share and to go and just get something from them. Their friendships are really valuable to us. And so that's a very important thing. So if there's anybody that does have a veteran that, would be open to that and letting us interview them. And if they have a veteran that doesn't want to talk, it doesn't matter. We want to include them in this stuff. We want to send them cards and get them involved in different events that we have, if they want to be a part of that. So we actually have a 8th Air Force veteran here that we met just about 7 months ago. And it's been really cool. We were able to tell a story, and now we are working with the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum, and he has a volunteer day on Sunday, every Sunday from 12:30 to 2:30 at the museum, where he goes, and it's just a meet and greet with the World War II veterans. So they kind of can see, who the men were that were flying these aircraft that we're going to look at in this aviation museum. And so just anything like that, like we're always looking for new ways to get them involved in the community. And like you said, through COVID, like a lot of these folks are lonely, and their friends have passed on, their spouses have passed on, family may or may not be involved. And, just that outreach and community is really important to them.
Lonely and bored. We've got a common friend, Don Graves, and he doesn't like to sit at home.
No, he doesn't. He's going to outlive
one day. Not one day will he want to sit home.
So, whenever you started this, you probably never dreamed that you'd cast a net that had a worldwide reach and be able to go to the places you've been, meet the people you have, because here's somebody that made a comment, Wilco from Holland. So
yes, hi Wilco.
That's a long way from where you are. So
yes, and so he actually joins us in Normandy every year and is a fantastic friend and supporter of our veterans. So, man, the folks in Normandy and in Europe are so appreciative of our World War II veterans. I was able to go back. We go back every year with Liberty Jump Team, but this last year for the 80th, American Airlines took a big group. And so Kelly from Roll Call had Dawn, and then I had Al Chatwin, and we went over to Normandy for the 80th commemoration. And you cannot walk down the street with these guys without just a crowd of people swarming them to take pictures, to get them to, shake hands with their child for autographs. It's like we were on tour with the Beatles. Just the amount of craze, that and really it's just the honor and love for the World War II veterans, because so many of them still, remember being under Nazi occupation, like they were kids at the time. And so it was just an incredible experience. And just to see the admiration that they have and respect. There's more American flags in Normandy than any town that I've ever seen. It's wild. It's just a really wonderful experience, and to get to do that with the World War II veterans was amazing. And I think there was a couple other, Bill Kelly was on there from Roll Call, and a couple other Roll Call folks with us.
I think we had 6 or 7 that were there between different groups.
Right.
So Defense Foundation and all the different groups that took folks. I think we had 6 or 7 over there. Yeah,
and Charlie got to go with the Liberty Jump Team. Charlie Braun, and they had a really fun event. They were able to do a re-enlistment ceremony with Tim Kennedy, and I believe the Joint Chief of Staff was there, and pin medals on Charlie and the other veteran, Dave Marshall. So that was really cool. We did get to do one event with them, with Liberty Jump Team over that week, and got to honor the guys. So yeah, we had a lot of Roll Call and Beyond the Call family over there that week.
One thing, the Europeans that honor our country and our veterans so much, one thing they do is teach in the schools the history. They have students that go out to the cemeteries and take care of the cemeteries and clean the headstones, and they know firsthand that it wasn't, always like it is today with the freedoms they got back that were taken away during World War II. So there's many of those countries where they really honor our veterans and love our country.
Yeah, it's amazing. We last year with Liberty Jump Team, we took Don Graves was with me that year, and we took them to an elementary school in Normandy, and all of the kids knew the words to our national anthem and sang them for the guys. And just really, like, every kid knew, who they were meeting, and they were just so excited. And I've never seen anything like that, just the admiration. These kids were like anywhere from 3rd grade to 8th grade, and they all knew the history so well. And again, just lined up to get to shake their hand and just tell them thank you.
Where's your next trip? Is it going to be with the trip with Al?
Yes, I'm so excited. So our next trip is to Guam, and the purpose is to be able to take Al Chatwin, a Roll Call World War II veteran, back to Guam where he served, and this will be the first time that he has been back since the war. I talked to him yesterday. He is like over the moon excited, and I can't wait. There is no sweeter man more deserving of something like this, and just tickled that he can go back, all these years to see where he served.
And this is something that our community can help fund. I mean, you can send money to Roll Call and just say, hey, it's to get Al over there, or there's some other places that they can donate to help defray the cost of that trip. Because you're going to go to Guam and Peleliu?
Yes. So we're going to be filming the whole time. So Al's story will be recorded. But part of this trip, we have a wonderful friend, partner, amazing volunteer, everything, Scott Gibson. He was portrayed Captain Haldane in the Pacific. And so his character that he portrayed, the man that he portrayed, he was killed in action on Peleliu. And so Al and Scott have become really good friends. So he's going to be coming with us to Guam to support Al in his trip. And then we'll be continuing on to Peleliu to do the 80th commemoration and to honor Haldane and the men of K35 whose lives were lost on Peleliu. And so, they're planning a lot. They've just redone the airstrip out there. The Marine Corps will be out there to do the ceremony. We'll be able to get up to Hill 140 where Captain Haldane was killed in action, and just really spend some time honoring those men.
And Peleliu was a very bloody battle that took the lives of a lot of Marines. I've got a friend that died a few years ago, and I never knew until just before he died that that's where he fought. And his family didn't ever hear any stories. but somebody from the museum, the Nimitz down in Fredericksburg, had said, we'd like to talk to him. And they said, well, he never has talked. I said, well, bring him down here and just come around the museum and maybe we can get him to talk. Well, they took him in and got a cup of coffee and sat down with him. And about an hour and a half later, he had talked and told all the things that he had witnessed in Peleliu. And so that was real nice to have grown up with his son and known Mr. Allman all those years to finally hear his story. So,
yeah, it was a pretty horrendous battle, and we're planning to go interview a couple veterans that we know who did fight on Peleliu. One of them is just down the road in San Antonio, but it's going to be, just an overwhelming experience, but it's beautiful. That's the thing. It's like 80 years later. There's so many people traveling to this small island in the Pacific to remember, these Marines and commemorate the lives lost on both sides. We don't want these things to repeat, and to keep that history alive helps to do that.
Yeah. And that's a great point too, Tracie. And it is the history on both sides, because recently we had a group come from Japan, from Tokyo, to interview Don and to hear about, what his experience was. And because they're doing a story on a photojournalist, an American photojournalist who happened to have captured a lot of photos from, Japan and Iwo and everything. And so they actually came here from Tokyo.
Yeah.
And they did a whole interview with Don. So there really is a great connection with both sides. War is ugly, but our enemies then are not our enemies today. So we don't look at each other as enemies. And I got an email from them, saying they're nearly done with their documentary and they're going to be sending it out pretty soon. And so it really is a partnership on both sides. So I'm glad you highlighted that, because sometimes we still want to think of them as the enemy, and they're not the enemy.
Yeah, it reminded me of when we were in Pearl Harbor with Don a couple years ago. There was a naval group from Japan out here, and Don looked at me and he said, "Is it okay if I go talk to them?" I said, "Yes, of course." And so he went over there, and they just had the time of their lives, just laughing together. Don was just making some fun jokes, and they had a great time, got a picture together. Just, I think for the Japanese sailors, that was a cool experience for them. And to see, okay, our history is difficult to look back at, but all these years later, we have such a wonderful friendship with them, and to maintain those things and strengthen them. And too, a lot of these guys were just kids. I mean, you look at Jack Stowe was 15, I think, when he was serving. So it's, it is, you have to separate it a little bit in your head to go, okay, we can commemorate the lives lost and not, honor the horror that was done, but just understand that a lot of these people were really children in so many ways.
Yeah.
We were talking about Al Chatwin, and his daughter, Debbie, said, "Dad is so excited and can't wait to go to Guam." So
that's awesome.
Al's just a prince of a gentleman, or, just a great guy. And he's so good to be with. He's just fun and just got such a tremendous personality and a lot of energy for somebody that's, getting pretty close to 100. So
yeah. Have you ever seen, and I always ask folks this, have you ever seen Al unhappy?
No.
He took the fall, and I went up to the hospital room, and up there with Debbie, and Al's getting ready to go home, and he's still such a joyful spirit. I mean, I just don't think I've ever seen him unhappy or upset. He's always got a smile on his face.
Always. I know. If I could just bottle his personality somehow, it's he's just the most precious, kind-hearted man.
Yeah, and he sings too. He can sing too.
He does.
He sings.
Yeah, he sang in a choir, and I think some kind of civic choir too, but at church too. So he does sing. So we get him to sing every once in a while, but probably need to get him to sing a little bit more.
Yeah.
Of course, our friend Don Graves, he always sings. So
Wherever we are.
Oh, we're already getting requests for Don to sing over here the week for Pearl Harbor. So yeah.
You don't have to twist his arm.
No. So I'll always ask him, but I know he's always going to say yes if it comes to singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this year, the trip to Pearl Harbor, Al's going to be there. Don's going to be there.
Al and Dawn, we have a veteran here, John Gleason, who will participate in the trip, and then another veteran from Lubbock, Texas, Johnny Shelton. So he'll be coming out, and then depending, just how funding goes and things like that, we do have a handful of others that are interested in coming out. So we're trying to get as many as we can, because we know these trips aren't going to be able to be done forever. So
Is Black Rifle working with you on this trip too? Yes,
we could not do what we do without Black Rifle Coffee. They have been one of our greatest supporters. The trip for Al to Guam, and then specifically for Al and Dawn to Pearl, has been financially sponsored by Black Rifle. So they gave us a wonderful donation of $25,000 this year. And just everything for them is about the veterans. I'm like, yeah, you guys sell coffee, but what you really do is support our veterans in so many ways. And so they were actually with us in Normandy. They spent a day traveling around, the countryside with us to different ceremonies and events. It was so funny because the whole week, I love the cuisine in France, but the guys were kind of like, hamburger sounds good. So Black Rifle took Don and Al to McDonald's in Normandy to get them some food. And we show up to one of the commemorations, and the active duty, opens the door, and Don and Al have like French fries, all over the place, just trying to eat before this event starts. So we were laughing about that. But Black Rifle has been our greatest supporter, and just good people. So they've helped us the last 2 years with the Pearl Harbor trips. And again, this year, we'll be doing some stuff with them, partnering on this Peleliu and Guam trip, just as far as content and any opportunity, that they have for World War II veterans. They're always calling and saying, do you have somebody that would want to do this or this? And so we could not do this without them. I said, I feel guilty. We don't have a Black Rifle here, so I have my Starbucks today, and I'm like, sorry,
Brand X.
We have a group of veterans that meets on Saturday mornings up at the Black Rifle in the Heritage Trace area, and so if anybody lives in that area and they want to go there every Saturday morning, they meet up there, and just a group that just decided to get together and hang out, drink coffee, and share stories. So and the Black Rifle folks up there have been really great. They've come to a luncheon. They've brought tea and coffee and served and helped, pass out lunches and everything else, and made a donation to roll call. So Black Rifle is really there for, to your point, for the veterans. It's really a great organization.
Most of them are veterans themselves in some capacity, or family of veterans. And that trip to Pearl Harbor, Mary, I think the moment that brought tears to everyone's eyes was at the parade. We had with us Clint Trial. He's a Marine Corps veteran and double amputee from the war. And we had Don Graves pushing him down the parade route, and Clint stands up and walks over to Don and just embraces him. And it's, these two generations of Marines. And I don't think there was a dry eye in that parade, seeing that moment. And they just deeply honor them and everything as far as my experience with Black Rifle, everything has been about the veterans, 100%.
And it's a company that was started by veterans, and they really support the veteran community. For the last couple of years, I've done a gala in Dallas, and for the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, and Black Rifle is the main sponsor, and they raise hundreds of thousands of dollars every year at that event. And the Black Rifle in Benbrook, one evening I was passing by there, and there were two people out there taking down the flag and folding the flag right out there in the parking lot. You don't see that at any other business, but you know, they support our veterans, and they show the community the love and honor they have for the United States of America.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was funny, the way we got connected, I was filming a video for the National Veterans Memorial and Museum out in Ohio, which they do wonderful work. But they were having a panel, and one of the gentlemen on the panel was with Black Rifle, and we got to talking. I was telling him about the trips to Normandy, and, you know, just casually goes, well, if you need anything for the World War II veterans from Black Rifle, just give me a call. So about a week later, we're talking about the Pearl Harbor trip, and I'm like, how on earth am I going to get this funded for, you know, 2 veterans? I think it was like maybe 4 months out. And so I thought, well, it can't hurt to just call him. And so I called and I said, hey, remember what you said? If we needed something, I said, how do you know, are you guys open to supporting these 2 veterans coming out to Pearl Harbor? And within a week, they had it done. And that trip happened because of Black Rifle. They went above and beyond and sent a whole film crew out, you know, that trip to document them. And they were able to put together a wonderful story that really, you know, tells that story of the trip well and capture some of the history of Don Graves and Carl Flenner and Jack Holder. But yeah, they're good guys. Drink their coffee.
There's so many of those organizations like that, like the Liberty Jump Team, that do so much. And, you know, just like we kind of partnered with Roll Call and with you, and you've partnered with many organizations, and that's what makes things so strong in the veterans community and even in the military community, are those organizations that don't just, you know, try to kind of just keep to themselves, but they go network with other organizations to make that support even stronger. You know, we have an organization, Holidays and Heroes, that give gifts to the people out at NASJRB, and then other organizations like the Air Power Foundation, the Fort Worth Air Power Council has joined in, and Roll Call have joined in to help do Thanksgiving meals, and also with the holidays, with the Christmas gifts too. So it just makes those organizations stronger when they can team up together like that. So
yeah, and Roll Call is such a good meeting ground for people, obviously just friendships, but for our organization to meet other people who are doing that. I have to give her a shout out because I love her dearly. But Liberty Phillips, we met at Roll Call, and she has just become one of my dearest friends. But she has this amazing program, Bridge to History, that takes school-age children back to different World War II battlefields. And, you know, now we're talking about partnering maybe for this Pearl Harbor trip or other things. And it just really, it's this great meeting ground for all of these organizations to come together, and we all have a common goal to support these veterans, but we're able to do it in different ways and just elevate one another in such a meaningful way.
And Liberty, you know, it's just so nice to see two women, you know, that are closer, that are younger, you know.
Wait a minute, Rick, what are you saying?
I've got to use some discretion in it, but I mean, you're the younger generation that have such a passion for our veterans and for especially our World War II veterans, and to see you all come together to be friends, work together. And if you haven't jumped with her, I'm sure that the day will come pretty soon because she is an avid paratrooper. So
Yeah,
she loves to
took
jump.
off with that. I think her goal was to get like the 5, and then she's up to, I don't know, I think almost 40, if not more, and doing air shows. And yeah, I definitely want to jump with her. I haven't had the chance yet, but her and Faith both, jump now, and I am always so inspired by them. The Phillips family is incredible, and they just do such great work for our veterans.
And you two inspire us because it's like the torch is getting passed. So you can carry those stories to your future generations. And, it's just such an honorable thing to see y'all working to love and honor those veterans. So a shout out to Liberty and the Phillips family and Faith and all of them because they do a magnificent job.
Yeah. We had them speak in June and brought in some of the kids, and then Rick got them on and did a podcast with them later. And I got a couple of cards from the kids and pictures and everything. So it's to hear it from their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
These are middle schoolers, and they were just blown away by the opportunity to be there in a room full of 500. I mean, people don't understand until they walk into a roll call luncheon. When we say we put on a luncheon, people go, "Oh, you got it, maybe a couple hundred people." They walk in the door and it is like, I talked to a veteran last night, a Vietnam veteran who's coming for his first time, and as I was talking to him, and he said, "Well, so what time is it?" And I explained to him, your first lunch, I always tell people, you want to get there early or you will be really overwhelmed.
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, thanks for the advice. I'll plan on getting there like at 10:30. And I'm like, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah. No, it and just from, I hadn't been going there too long, but just from the time, I guess 5-6 years or so, I mean, it's packed. It is so packed in there, and it's wonderful. Like, this is, just people's free time, and this is where they want to be, and there's a reason for it. And Rick, I appreciate you saying, like, that the torch is being passed, and we will, do our absolute best with it. But our examples are people like you and Mary, and you guys have done such a wonderful job with Roll Call. Rick, I always admire you for every event you're out there with your camera documenting that stuff. Those pictures, people look back on that day and just take away, such a big smile from being able to look back and see those photos from it. And you serve in so many ways, through capturing, that. I look at the picture of those 7 veterans, like, we can look back on that today and talk about them, so we're grateful that you guys are inspired by us, but it is definitely, y'all have led the way and inspire us.
It takes a village. It takes all of us, and from different backgrounds and from different generations, to honor and support those men and women who've defended our nation. So, we were talking about Al a while ago, and I think that's him. On D-Day, and Debbie she sent another message and said he also sang with the Fort Worth Opera Course back in the 60s and 70s. So I don't think you can do that unless you can sing good.
So we do have a recent video that we posted of him. There was a World War II veteran who played, I can't remember what instrument he was playing, but it's at the airport, and Al is singing Sentimental Journey, and he's got a whole crowd around him, and he sounds wonderful. He's got such a beautiful voice. So if people want to hear him sing, they can go watch that.
That'd be good. I'll go check that out. But just one of those other great veterans. So
yeah.
Well, Tracie, it's been so good having you as a guest today, and we want to have you back sometimes. I'd like to have you and Liberty on at the same time. And
oh my gosh, we would have so much fun with
y'all
that.
Y'all can compare notes with the veterans, and Liberty, she, ever since she's just a young teenager, I think, has been pen pals with all these veterans. And so she's got hundreds and hundreds of letters and one thing that Liberty and I have talked about is kind of having the Liberty letters where we get on like this and she reads those letters and tells about those people because, their stories live on. So
Yeah. They do a great job. And, one thing that I love about her organization is she doesn't just take these kids to the battlefields for like a week and then that's it. She gets them involved in their local veteran organizations, Reese across America. So throughout the entire year, they're inundated with opportunities to volunteer. And I think that's important to keep, engaged throughout the year in these events and activities that we can do for our veterans.
Yep, because guess what? One day you and Liberty will pass the torch to them. And so it really is preparing each generation to not let these stories die, because we know without a doubt that we are not getting this kind of education in the schools, and anytime that we have an opportunity to pass the history on, we need to do it. We should take that obligation very serious.
Absolutely.
And just like honoring the World War II veterans and getting their stories, pretty soon there won't be any World War II veterans. And then we'll have the Korean War veterans, and they'll go pretty quickly.
Yeah, because they're in their 90s. Most of them are in their 90s.
Then we have our Vietnam veterans, and that's another group that was an important part of American history. And that was an unpopular war. They came back not as heroes, but as the villains in a lot of people's minds. And so, it's important, that we have groups too that get their stories because, every story matters and every veteran has a story. So,
yeah. And that's our goal with Beyond the Call, once the World War II generation passes, and even now, prior to that, making sure that we're getting the stories of veterans from these other conflicts, because it tells a whole story between all of these different eras. I'm working on my dad. He was a Vietnam veteran, and he's like, I don't want to talk. No, we're good. I don't want to be on camera. So
he should just come to a lunch and tell his story. So
yes.
And that's such a great point, because, we took Larry Kynard. I'm going to say his name wrong again. Larry Kynard is a Korea War veteran, and he was in some pretty tough battles, and took him to be honored at a Rangers game, when Lockheed Martin does that, and we've taken one veteran, and only one veteran is recognized. And last week that was Larry, and Larry is just coming off of cancer. I mean, he's still going through treatment and everything, but we are very fortunate he's still with us. But, when he met with the executives, and I think he even puts it in his bio, when we mostly think of the Korean War, most people say it's the forgotten war. And Larry will tell you, it's not the forgotten war, it's the forgotten victory. And he's very serious about it. And he thinks that, we need to tell that story more often too, the Korea War, because these guys are really in they're 92 to 98. And they're not far behind those World War II guys, and they're precious. I love spending time with Larry and his son, John. It was just so nice to hear just and the Lockheed executives did their homework. They're veterans. They knew where he served. They had the conversation was just great between the Lockheed executives and Larry. And it was really something to just see him really talking, so it is pretty cool.
And what he said, I never have thought of it that way, the forgotten victory, because that's one country that we did save and we've helped them preserve their country, South Korea.
Right.
And, Vietnam, North came in, took over the country. But as of today, there's still North and South Korea. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But Tracie, thank you very much for being on today. And we're just so honored and privileged to have you. You do a remarkable job, and you're a great American.
Thank you, Rick.
we just love you and appreciate you and appreciate what you do. So look forward to seeing you back in Fort Worth. So
Yes, I can't. It's funny. I plan my trips back to Texas based on roll call luncheons.
plan your trip around those.
Yes, but thank you guys both. Again, thanks to Roll Call for being one of our greatest supports in so many different ways. And we couldn't do this work without, the remarkable people that we have beside us.
And there's your website at the bottom, World War II, WW2BeyondTheCall.com. Go there and find out more about your organization. So, Mary, you have any closing comments before Tracie leaves us?
Just that we love you and we miss having you around more. But by all means, we hope that when we get the opportunities to interact, that we get to do more of that. And we really appreciate you coming on here. And for folks out there watching, check out her website and go out there and help if you can. And if you know a World War II veteran that has not yet been recognized or involved in anything that they really would like to get out for that closure, please have them reach out. And if they can't get to Tracie, then get to us, and Rick or I will get you connected.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, and you can go back and take a nap because it's still pretty early there.
It's coming up now, so
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Another great person that has crossed our paths, Mary.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Like, if anyone goes out there to our website and you watch the video that she did with Al and Don, and I don't remember who else is in there. They may be the only two in there. I think Carmen was in there.
Carmen's in there, yeah.
But that she really did a great job with that, and that was in partnership. And then she did another movie, Rendezvous with Destiny. So that's another movie that folks can go out there and catch and hear some more stories. So just really, really does a great job.
And we talked about Al, and you have an opportunity to help get Al to Guam. And you can go to, I think, is it on our website at Roll Call?
I think we still have it there, and it may be in the in our newsletter, but I'm pretty sure it's still on our website. I haven't looked lately.
Okay, and then we have a roll call meeting coming up in just another week or so. Reservations opened up the other day.
Yeah, and they opened yesterday and they filled yesterday because we cut the numbers back because we're not 100% certain that we'll be able to get the same numbers in that room. So we're trying to be a little bit more cautious about the numbers for the first one, and we'll probably be doing a couple of things different. I'll be sending out a message to the folks that are not veterans, that don't come with or bring a veteran, and asking that they, while they may have RSVP'd, that they understand that we're going to ask them to wait to get seated until we get all of the veterans a seat. And then we'll fill them in. But our priority is the veterans. And of course, the veterans come with wives or caregivers or, a son or a daughter, somebody that's most of the time. So those folks will get seated. But I'm talking about the ones that are purely not veterans, not coming with a veteran. So that will be something that we're doing a little different. And it may be only the first lunch that we have to do that. But until we can actually get the room set up, we're not 100% certain how many we can get in there safely. And so we want to be mindful of that. We did also have a change in our speaker. So let me finish the RSVP, I guess. So the RSVP line is going to, if you try to go out there and RSVP today, it's going to tell you it's full. And that's because we cut those numbers back. And as we go through the next week or so, and we try to figure out, do we think we can squeeze a few more tables in there, then we will add some extra seats out there on the site. So just keep checking back at the site, and then people cancel or there's duplicates. We've got a few duplicates in there I need to get taken out. So that opens up extra seats. So just keep going out to the website, and look and see if there's some seats that opened up. We've also had a change to our speaker. We could not get Clinton Doris to confirm that he could be there, so we had to make a change. And so now it's going to be Colonel Daniel Morgan, who is a retired U.S. Army infantry officer, and he retired in 2018. So he's recent, and he's going to have some really great stories to tell us, and we're really looking forward to this.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good meeting. I wish I could be there, but our friends at Sons of the Flag are having their clay shoot, and
Right.
I kind of commit to help them because they're a great supporter of Roll Call.
They are incredible folks.
And I've talked to Kay. I think Kay's going to be able to take pictures at the Roll Call meeting. So we're still talking. She's said that she would certainly try to be there. So looks like a great meeting coming up. You know, one way that our listeners and our friends out there can help us is on Facebook at our Hometown Heroes Facebook page. And if you're a member of the group, would like for you to go in there. There's a way to invite your friends to become a member of our Hometown Heroes Facebook group, because we're just a little over 2,800 members in our group. And, you know, the more that we can grow it, the more people can hear our stories. So if you're a member of that group, if you can go in there and invite your friends to join. And if you aren't a member of the group, you can find, just look up Hometown Heroes and you'll see our Facebook group. So
yeah. Come join us.
Absolutely. We've got Roll Call has the clay shoot coming up. It's going to be October the 13th. That's on a Sunday. And there's some QR codes here to either be a sponsor or be a team member, or come and shoot. So it's a great day. We had our inaugural first anniversary. It was a great success, and we had a lot of fun that day. So that's the second annual clay shoot. So this has been a great day, 100th episode. So that's a great milestone for us, because that first day we went and talked to Larry O'Neill, and we kind of had no idea that, 2 years later, we would have talked to as many great people as we've talked to.
Yeah, it's been quite a
telling their
ride.
stories. And it's not always just the heroes that we talk to, but it's people like Tracie, like Susan Irving, like Carrie Orgel with Holidays and Heroes, or Wanda Cox with the Air Power Foundation. Those are those people that support our veterans and our military and our first responders. And they're heroes too, because of the love and support that they give our veterans and our heroes. So, but Mary, look forward to having another great show next week. And I've got, sounds like a jet. It's not I don't think it's F-35 coming over. You can probably hear it through my microphone, but
Yeah.
we just thank everybody for being a part of Hometown Heroes, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.